to dotslashbacktrack.com. Before I start this tutorial on Metasploit, I must apologize for a little bit of the sound in the room. I have a 144 port switch, again, behind my head, and it's a little loud. This is where I had to set up my test area, so it's not the best, but it's what I have. Today we're going to talk about Metasploit, what it can do, and how to get started in the most basic of ways. So let's get started. Before we use Metasploit, we need to find a little bit of information. So we're going to go to BackTrack, Vulnerability Assessment, Vulnerability Scanners, Nessus, and then we're going to start Nessus. Now Nessus is a very good vulnerability scanner. At least, well, it's free for the home user. Just remember that. So first we're going to do Nessus Start. We've started the service. Now what we're going to do is go to the Nessus webpage at https localhost 8834, port 8834. Nessus needs Flash, and that can be a little bit hard sometimes to get working within BackTrack. I'm not going to go over all of the adding of users, all of the little intricacies that are required to get Nessus working, because sometimes it can be a little bit of a pain to get working. If we want that, there are tutorials located on our website at dotslashbacktrack.com that we've mined from YouTube, and eventually we will make our own. Right now, we are just going to go and log in. Oh, wait. Here's your home page. Here's a scan that I've already done. Get your reports, scans, policies you've set up, and users. I'm just going to quickly go through the scans. If I want to start a new scan, I go Add, name of the scan. I'm going to call it Home Scan. You can run it now, schedule it, or you can have a template. This is going to be an internal network scan. I can set it for one host or a range of hosts, like a subnet. Right now we already have a scan. Back to reports. Here's a network scan I have already. Now the network scan is broken up into sections. Here's our hosts. Here's our default gateway right here. There will be the device I scanned it on. As you can see, a lot of vulnerabilities. Here's an Android device. Here are 2 Windows 7 hosts. And here is a Windows 2008 Server R2 domain controller. Now, our vulnerabilities are divided into high, medium, and low, and open ports. So obviously you can see which ones you'd want to hit. We're not going to go hit the device I scanned everything with. It intentionally had open ports and vulnerabilities on it. What we're going to do is we're just going to look at the Windows Server 2008 R2 box. Double click on it. We can see all the service names, all the services that are running, and the vulnerability that they have. For instance, if I were to go on one of the medium ones here, there we go, UDP DNS. Click. DNS server cache snooping remote information disclosure. It gives me a synopsis, a description. The remote DNS server responds to queries for third-party domains that do not have the recursion bit set. Also gives a solution. Contact the vendor of the DNS software for a fix. Maybe not quite the best idea. CVS scores, plugins, plugin dates. This one really isn't that hittable right now, at least not for what we want to do. So let's go back. So 254. Now we have, there was one high one in here. Let's go back to our network scan. Go back to my reports. Network scan. High. Sorry. Okay, I seem to be having a... There we go. For some reason my touchpad was going a little bit happy there. So let's go to the high. Now, what we will do, double click, we see one that has a severity. Vulnerability to DNS resolution could allow remote code execution. LNMR, port 5355 UDP. Could allow remote execution. I'm going to scroll down here. Now, the thing we want to notice is our CVE numbers and OSVDB numbers. These are crucial. If these are located within your scan, you started to hit upon a little bit of gold. Your CVE number is your Common Vulnerability and Exposures number. It's a database set up by the US government and administered by MITRE. We're going to copy that. Now, where we're going to go with this number, because this number lists what the specific vulnerability is in a database. We're going to go to cvedetails.com. I like using CVE details. In the corner here, you'll see View CVE. I'm going to paste the number in there. And then we're going to go see what that CVE gives me. And it'll give me a lot of information. It'll tell me the hosts that I can hit, the impacts, specific OSs, and the details of the vulnerabilities. What we're really interested in is this, the Metasploit module. You can click on that, or just go to the very bottom of the page. Here's the Metasploit module. More often than not, you'll find a CVE number, but you will not find a Metasploit module related to it. Remember that. Just because you find the CVE number does not mean that you found true gold yet. So we're going to click on that. Now we're at the Metasploit exploit database. At least that's what I call it. CVE, OSVDB, and your MSB, MS numbers. We're not going to talk about these two lower guys for a little while here. We're just going to the CVE. This is just basics. At the very bottom, you'll see how to run this particular module. It tells you how to load it, which we're going to copy. It tells you the options. So now that we're done with this, what we need to do, we're going to get out of this for just a little while here, is what we're going to do, we're going to start Metasploit. Now the first thing we need to do is BackTrack, exploitation tools, network exploitation tools, Metasploit framework, and start MSF Pro. There's MSF update here. I've already updated, well, I updated it within the last couple days. My Metasploit framework. The first time you update it, right at when you load up BackTrack right out of the box, it will take you a while. We're not doing that today. So, right now I'm going to start. This will take just a second. There we are. And we're good. Now, we'll go BackTrack, exploitation tools, network exploitation tools, Metasploit framework, MSF console. This is going to take a second. I'm not quite sure if it has to do with my VM, but from what I understand, it takes time for everybody. I'll take this moment to enlighten you of a few things. The network that I'm on, I've built myself. I do not use Metasploit to go after any client that I do not have permission. And this tutorial is a very basic tutorial. I'm not even going to take you up to Meterpreter. All we're going to do is just go and see how Metasploit works. The next tutorial on, we're going to get into it a little bit more. It also must be understood that the work with Metasploit can be very time-consuming. A lot of times, you will never get the proper exploit you want, and you'll have to work and work and work at it. I'm fairly new to Metasploit myself, and it takes me a long time. So, we have our MSF prompt right at the bottom here, and you'll always see this little graphic. Exploits, payloads. What we're going to do is we're going to paste in our module. It's loaded up. At this point, I always like to show my options. I can always set my options. I could reset my R host and my R port, which is my receiving host and my receiving port, what I'll be sending to. There's also commonly an L host and an L port, depending, which will be your listening host and your listening port. Most often not you. Now this one, let's just try. I don't expect much from it. Run. Nope, not happening. A lot of times you would have to do this over and over and over and over again until you finally find something that works, or use more advanced techniques, which we're not going to get into at this moment. Just understand right now that this is how you start. This is the basic place to start. So now, I have a server running MySQL. And I'm going to try to see if I have any exploits for that. What I'm going to do is I'm going to do show exploits. Now give this a second to load up. I'll take this moment to discuss what an exploit is. What I like to think of an exploit is as a very well-made weapon, a gun. And you aim it by setting your R hosts, your L hosts, but that's all you're doing is aiming it. It has nothing really to do any damage. And that's what you use your payload for. Your payload is the bullet that you load it with. And that payload can do many things. That payload can give you control of the machine. That payload can do damage to the machine. That payload can circumvent antiviruses on the machine. The payload can do many things. And once that payload is executed, you know that your client's system has weaknesses within it. One example would be an IceCast server. If you have an IceCast server running on your system, you can use Metasploit to go and access that IceCast server and to get access to your system. We're not going to go that far today. Today it's just the basics. Now it should load up the exploits in just a minute, and there they are. There's way more here than I can possibly get you through right now. What we're going to do, we're just going to take a random one. Let's see, Windows, there's MySQL. And trust me, I doubt any of these are going to work. We're just going to choose something by random. Let's see here. If you look at the dates, you'll notice when they were actually made and what they're working against. Now right here we have a MySQL payload from 2000. I doubt this has probably been patched already. What you have to understand is that if you have a system and you've patched that system for the vulnerabilities, you make a lot of these exploits worthless. But if you can find a person who's running a system that isn't patched, or isn't with the latest service pack, or has opened ports that they shouldn't be opening up, or is using services that open ports that shouldn't be opened up, then you can do some damage. When I mean damage is that I mean that you can show your client that they are vulnerable. So let's just go pick one right at random here. So use exploit and we got a space in here. There we go. We've now set this exploit. After this, let's go show payloads. There we are. Let's pick up reverse shell TCP, reverse shell bind TCP. In order to do this, we must set. I can never remember if it's payload or payloads. And I'm also the worst typer in the world. Keep wanting to put the word payloads in there. There we are. Oh. I got the wrong payload there. None the matter. This is just for an example anyways. Let's show our options. Now, we can set our host, and we can set, we have payload options, and we have module options. We can set a username for a user that we're trying to get access to, and we can put a password in. So, and it's got a targeting on it also. So we're going to set our host 192.168.0.254. We're going to set a username. I've actually never used this before. We're going to set a password. And I'm trying to remember what the password was. There we go. At this point, let's show our options again. As you can see, all the options have been set. We can set our R port, and our R port is right dead on right now, 1433. I had a user of administrator in there. It's at 0.254. So let's go see what happens. I'm curious. Just need to type in the word exploit. Nothing. Didn't expect it to. Okay, let's go have some fun with Metasploit. I've loaded up Metasploitable, which is a vulnerable VM, and left it on my network. It's at number 192.168.1.20. I have a small little internal network here on my computer, and we'll just run with those. I've already scanned Metasploitable, and found a few vulnerable services. So what we're going to do, use auxiliary, this is just to show you what it's like. We're going to do two things. What's handy about Metasploitable, if I can only spell, is that it gives you a taste for what things should look like when they're done properly. Remember, always show your options. So let's go set our R host. Now, you'll notice there's an R limit there. And you also, if you've looked at the attack closely enough, you see the word DOS in there. That's for denial of service. So we're going to set our R limit a little higher. Set it for 200. And all we do is just run. And all that's doing is just shoving packets down, number 192.168.1.20. And they cannot get anything else, at least on that port at that specific time. They are vulnerable to it if using that service. But we can't really see the true power. So let's do one more thing. Let's do an exploit. Yeah, I apologize. I'm really bad at typing. That's Unix. Exec. Okay, it's loaded. Let's go look at our options. Oh, we can set an R host. So let's go. I'm a bad typer, but this is extraordinarily bad. And there's only one thing we have to do. And we're in. You will notice right here, command shell has been opened. It looks like nothing's happening. You're in there? Cool. Here's a daemon. You have everything that you can possibly need. Dash. And there, right there, is your SSH keys, where it says authorize keys. I need to thank the people at Metasploit for making this wonderful product. It enables anybody, people like me who are just starting out, to be able to find out how this works and to see something successful, because you can bang your head against the wall for quite a bit. And that's it for our demonstration. Remember that we have a website, dotslashbacktrack.com. We have worked BackTrack out in the exact method that the actual BackTrack is built. So for instance, you go web assessment, vulnerability assessment, web assessment, CMS identification. You will find all of the tools there and videos that we have mined from YouTube. We also have penetration testing models, which are our end-to-end tutorials, which is one that you've just seen right now, or at least you just saw part 1 of Metasploit. I made one on information gathering and vulnerability analysis. It comes with a video at the very end, and also comes with a full in-depth tutorial on how to actually use what we talk about. Thank you very much, and I hope you've enjoyed this.